Harper found herself constantly changing jobs, moving from one opportunity to another after each probation period. Ethan was discouraged by the situation, as he had been counting on her financial support. "How are you doing?" Ethan asked one evening when he returned from a grueling day at work. Despite being exhausted and wanting nothing more than to collapse on the couch, he decided to talk to his wife. "Actually, I'm starting at a new place tomorrow," she mentioned, her face lighting up with a hopeful smile. This news lifted Ethan's spirits. He felt optimistic that this new job would suit Harper well, and that she might finally settle into something for the long haul. Harper explained that she would be working night shifts as a chef at a 24-hour food delivery service. The first few months flew by wonderfully. Harper seemed to enjoy the job, and her salary grew increasingly solid, especially with the higher pay for night shifts. This encouraged her to work more consecutive shifts, and the routine persisted for over a year. Harper threw herself into her work, and Ethan was ecstatic to see her taking pleasure in her employment. However, as time passed, Ethan couldn't help but notice that Harper began splurging on notably expensive items. Each time he expressed his astonishment at her purchases or asked about her earnings, Harper would simply brush off his curiosity with a smile and a casual comment, saying she made enough to cover her expenses. Ethan also noticed that Harper was dedicating more time to enhancing her appearance. She frequented the gym, became a regular at local beauty parlors, and indulged in various beauty treatments. Ethan was quite pleased with these changes. He proudly shared photos of them together on social media, basking in the envy of his peers. One day, a friend teasingly warned him, "You've got a youthful bride there. Better watch out so no one snatches her away." Ethan grinned confidently and replied, "I can handle it." They shared a laugh and quickly moved on from the topic. Shortly afterward, another buddy invited Ethan to his bachelor party. With a mischievous grin, the friend leaned in and quietly mentioned that the party would be at a strip club. Initially, Ethan hesitated, coming up with reasons to avoid going as he didn't want to spark any jealousy from Harper. However, after some persistent coaxing from his friend, he reluctantly agreed to attend the bachelor party. He chose to keep his plan hidden from Harper. On the day of the celebration, Ethan left the house earlier than usual, while Harper was also preparing to depart for her night shift at work. He planted a kiss on her cheek and made his exit. Ethan was a bundle of nerves, consumed by the unsettling thought that Harper might catch wind of his deception. Yet, destiny had a different plan in store for him. He and the gang shuffled into a dimly lit room adorned with neon glows, most of the patrons being men huddled around scattered tables. Ethan felt like a teenager, stumbling upon his parents' clandestine stash of forbidden tapes. A wave of discomfort washed over him, but his buddy tried to lift his spirits, insisting that every man must venture into such an establishment at least once. "But I'm married," Ethan attempted to counter. "You're not married in here, though," his friend assured him, with a reassuring slap on the back. Oh, how misguided his friend was. They planted themselves at the table farthest from the stage, just as the girls began their entrance. Ethan made every effort to divert his gaze, but unexpectedly, the evening's instigator, perched to his left, nudged him forcefully. "Check out the stage!" he bellowed, his exclamation lost amid the uproarious applause and booming music. Hesitantly, Ethan directed his eyes toward the stage, and witnessed a sight he wished he never had to see. Standing there in exquisite lingerie was his very own wife. In that moment, everything around him blurred. He couldn't believe his eyes. The woman before him was truly Harper. She moved with confidence and grace, performing feats that Ethan deemed unattainable. His mouth fell open in disbelief, barely able to fathom what he was seeing. Ethan's companions were equally astounded. In a show of solidarity, they averted their gazes, refusing to watch the scene unfolding before them. Ethan, however, couldn't tear his eyes away. Sitting at a considerable distance, he was certain that his wife remained oblivious to his presence. He observed the other men, their gazes fixated on her. A gentleman at a nearby table motioned to a waitress, whispering something in her ear, while gesturing toward the stage. Ethan, filled with a sudden, unexplainable urgency, beckoned the waitress over as well. The girl, swaying her hips seductively, made her way to their table. "Can you enlighten me on the nature of your conversation with that gentleman?" Ethan inquired, sensing that this information held some significance for reasons he couldn't yet understand. The waitress glanced around cautiously, scrunching up slightly as she leaned in to whisper in his ear. He requested the company of the girl from the stage in a private room. Ethan's eyes turned bleak. He turned to his friend, seeking clarification on the concept of private rooms and their activities. His comrade reluctantly elucidated the entire situation, filled with immense sorrow. His pal suggested he leave, but he flat out refused. He intended to catch Harper off guard and confront the traitor head-on. He lingered until she finished her speech and watched as a man at the adjacent table rose and headed left. Ethan trailed him inconspicuously, peeking from behind the corner to see which room the guy slipped into. Minutes later, Harper appeared by the door and slipped inside without a moment's hesitation. Ethan paused, unsure whether to storm in right away or bide his time until things escalated. Ethan, being quite the burly fellow, had no issue smashing through the flimsy door, and boy, did he walk right into a scene straight out of a tawdry soap opera. The guy was perched on a tiny red couch, pants around his ankles, with Harper awkwardly kneeling between his legs. She froze like a deer in headlights when she spotted her husband standing there, his eyes ablaze with fury. Ethan barely had a second to react before the bouncer swooped in, pinning him down under the scrutinizing glares of the onlookers. They escorted him out of the nightclub, and one of the bouncers caught his gaze, querying, "Is she your wife?" Ethan gave a confirming nod. The guard exhaled a deep, weary breath. He revealed that Harper had been an employee there for quite some time, always claiming her single status, never mentioning a family. But now her claims have really become the truth, Ethan uttered with a tinge of sorrow. Without a parting word, he pivoted and strode off to somewhere, anywhere. He needed solitude. That night, he didn't return home. By daybreak, he had terminated his apartment lease, and within a few days, he initiated divorce proceedings. Harper tried to reach out, bombarding him with calls. Initially, he would pick up, enduring her tearful pleas through the receiver, but eventually, he grew weary of it. Forgiveness was beyond him, and he no longer wished to burden his heart with her cries. Moving away from that life, years later, he settled down anew, marrying a woman of his own age and welcoming a daughter into the world. Harper was terminated from her position at the nightclub. The patron whom her spouse discovered her with lodged a formal grievance with the management and demanded compensation for emotional distress. As a result, Harper faced charges, leading not only to the loss of her savings, but also plunging her into debt. She resolved never to venture back into that field, embarking on a quest for alternative employment. Night after night, she found herself weeping uncontrollably in her small room, tormented by the memories of how she had sabotaged her own life. Financial constraints made it impossible for her to afford a larger living space. She castigated herself for chasing quick riches and for betraying Ethan, who had shown her nothing but kindness. Indeed, all things in life seemed relative. The gentleman she encountered subsequent to leaving her spouse appeared initially affable. However, upon confiding in him about the motives behind her separation from Ethan, he abruptly departed, spewing hurtful invectives her way. At present, Harper felt utterly devoid of future happiness. She aimlessly wandered through various least odds, engaging in any kind of job to barely scrape by. Her former comrades shunned her upon discovering her past, leaving her with a poignant realization that she had relinquished everything: love, family, and security. Her sole remaining option entailed embarking on a fresh, new beginning. As time flew by, Ethan's life took a turn for the better. He landed a great job, formed new friendships, and eventually met a special someone who shared his hopes and dreams. Together, they put down roots, creating a family filled with love and trust. Meanwhile, Harper couldn't entirely shake off the shadows of the past. Memories of those early joyful days with Ethan would occasionally surface, reminding her of what once was. Yet life marched on, and both of them blamed their own lessons from bygone days. Cheating Secrets podcast, like me,